Hi, my name is Mandy Gatesman. I'm one of the oncology pharmacists at VCU Massey Cancer Center, and I'm going to talk to you today about herbals, fact versus fiction. So first, we're going to cover about 3 objectives today. First, what are natural products? Because they can go by a variety of different names, so we want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're talking about. Next are what resources may be available to help you to research natural products, because there's a lot of information out on the internet, and we want to make sure that we're finding the most useful and the most accurate information that we can. And finally, how do I talk to my healthcare team about natural products? I would like to say that one thing we won't be talking about is specific herbal products. Unfortunately, there's just too many of them, and the talk would be incredibly long and probably incredibly boring if we tried to do that. So we're going to just talk a little bit about generalizing natural products and the use in cancer patients, and things that we think about whenever we're deciding whether natural products are a good choice in your toolbox of other cancer treatments. So the first thing we're going to discuss is what are natural products. So substances that are produced from marine organisms, bacteria, fungi, and plants are all considered natural products. So this can include vitamins, minerals, and also probiotics. And the terms that are out there that all are encompassed under natural products include dietary supplements, botanicals, herbals, supplements, and also this alternative complementary product umbrella. It's in the soonest information that we have about how many people actually use these natural products is from 2012. And at that time, about 18% of all American adults, not just those with cancer, but all American adults used natural products. And we know that number does go up whenever you have a diagnosis of cancer. And I'm sure in the now 8 to 9 years since that information was collected, I'm sure a lot more patients are using them as well. The most common products that are used across the country, again, not just in cancer patients, include fish oils, glucosamine, prebiotics and probiotics, melatonin, and then coenzyme Q10 as well. And we also know that this is a very lucrative industry, making around $12.8 billion a year in the natural product industry. So there's a lot of money out there being made from these products. And so we want to know that the ones that we're choosing are the safest ones, because you can imagine with this amount of money flowing through this industry that there might be ones that companies that might not be having everyone's best interest at heart. So let's talk a little bit about why patients may want to use natural products. Particularly with cancer patients, there's a lot of different reasons why you may want to include these natural products in your toolbox. So one is to improve quality of life, so whether this be your physical or emotional health. Another is to minimize symptoms or side effects. And I think especially in cancer patients, we think often about the symptoms of the disease or the symptoms that our treatments can cause, that we would want to potentially use something in the natural product realm where we could help to minimize those symptoms. Another is to prolong life or to prevent or cure cancer. Often when we think of cancer, we think of our immune system as being a part of that, either being part of the cancer process itself or the treatments that we use that might suppress our immune system. And so we would want to give that a boost with our treatments and our natural products. And one of the biggest ones, I think, especially for cancer patients, is that it's a feeling where you don't have as much control over your life when this new diagnosis comes to you. And so it's one of those ways that can help you to gain some control over your life and your illness by being able to choose these natural products in order to help with some of those symptoms. So let's get into one of our first fact versus fiction controversies. So one statement that you may have heard or read is that natural products are safer than prescription medications. So if we think of whether this is fact or fiction, this one is unfortunately fiction. The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or the DSHEA of 1994, is what says that manufacturers are not required to prove that their natural products are effective or safe. So even though the natural products are regulated by the FDA, they are not under the same act as what is that our regular prescription products are regulated by. So even so with our prescription products, they do have to prove safety and efficacy, but the natural products are under a separate act, and so they do not. So there does exist a risk for contamination or harmful substances that are within that product. And you may have seen some headlines in the news over the years about these products being recalled for contamination issues and other such things. So, you know, in the just a smattering of ones in the late 2010s, that in a protein supplement, they found arsenic and lead. In another natural product, they found salmonella that made around 90 people sick at the time of that report in Newsweek. There was also a natural herbal coffee that was recalled because it had Viagra, a similar substance to Viagra, included in it, which can be very dangerous in patients who have a cardiac history and taking certain cardiac medications. And then there was also a golden seal root powder that was recalled because it was contaminated with bacteria, and they were using it on the umbilical cord stump of the baby, and they ended up with an infection that they couldn't clear. So some of these are obviously more shocking and worst case scenario, but it just goes to show that that a lot of these natural products, because of the way that they're not as well regulated in the manufacturing process and in their process of coming to the market as our prescription products are, they may not be as safe as our prescription medications. Particularly when we break it down into the safety and the efficacy for these products. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's see if I can go back. There we go. Both of these may be compromised, and a 2001 study found that in almost a third of natural products, the ingredient that was listed on the bottle could not be determined to actually be in the product. So if you go to a shelf and you have 10 bottles of natural product on the shelf, 3 to 4 of those would not have what you thought was actually in there. They couldn't actually find that substance in the natural product itself. And also on the safety side of this, about 23,000 emergency room visits and about 2,000 hospitalizations per year are caused by natural products. Many of these are from liver dysfunction and excess bleeding. And we actually think that these are probably underestimated. The number of hospitalizations and emergency room visits are underestimated because we don't know oftentimes that patients were taking these natural products and that could potentially be the cause of it. So this is probably very underreported over the time. And then when we think about efficacy and how well these products actually work, not just the safety of them, most herbal products, natural products, have low to moderate quality evidence. So when we think of our prescription drugs, they go through various phases of testing, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And in these early phase studies, phase 1 and phase 2, we're often thinking about the safety of them, seeing if there's any adverse effects that are reported that we would be concerned about. And then once we see that they're safe in the majority of patients, we'll test them in a larger group of patients to try to look to see whether or not it actually works in the way that we think that it's going to work. And so once it goes through all of those phases of study, that's the FDA reviews it, and that's when it comes to market. But unfortunately, we don't have those same well-controlled studies in the natural product world. And because these products may not have consistent ingredients or quality, it makes interpreting that evidence or how we apply that evidence even more difficult, because the product that they may have used in the patients in the study itself that showed that it worked, we're not sure if you can get that same potency of product if you just go buy it on the shelf. Not every ginger product is exactly the same as a ginger product they may have used in the study, as opposed to the prescription drug world, where we know that what they used in the study is the exact same thing that we get in every pharmacy across the country. So it just makes it a little bit harder to apply that efficacy information to individual patients in every place. So how can we take this kind of less regulated world of natural products and make them safer for patients? There's a couple of different ways. First is by making sure that they follow good manufacturing practices, and this is called GMP. And it ensures quality throughout the manufacturing process. So it's a quality improvement type of process. And since 2007, the FDA requires natural product manufacturers to follow GMP. So hopefully by them following GMP, or these good manufacturing practices, there's less room for some of that contamination that we hear about. Unfortunately, the regulation of this, of the FDA following through and making sure that these companies are all following GMP is a little bit hard. So even though they're required to do so, the actual enforcement of it is a little lax. But we do have 3 companies that can help us to feel better about the product that we're buying actually has the ingredient in it that we think that it has, and does not have the contaminants that we don't want it to have. So these 3 companies are called the United States Pharmacopoeia, or USP, the National Sanitation Foundation, or the NSF, and Consumer Lab, at which you can find at consumerlab.com. This is a voluntary process, so the manufacturers of these various natural products can contact one of these companies and have them come to their manufacturing facility and observe what it is, how their manufacturing processes are, and also then take their products and take them to their own independent lab and test them to make sure that what's on the label is actually in the product, and that what's not on the label is not in the product. So they do this independent evaluation and they confirm the potency with no contaminants, and again, that they're being created in a GMP facility as they do inspections of their manufacturing processes. So when you're looking for products, be sure to look for these Consumer Lab, USP, and NSF classifications. You'll see a symbol on the label of the product, and you can have more confidence in that product that what you're getting is what you think that you're getting. So the next topic that we're going to go through is whether or not these different herbal medications or natural products play well with your conventional cancer treatment. So fact or fiction, I can use complementary therapy with conventional cancer treatment. And happily, this is a fact. There was a large study that was published a couple of years ago looking at 1,300 patients that either had breast, prostate, lung, or colorectal cancer. They included patients who had stage 1, stage 2, or stage 3 disease, so they did not include patients who had stage 4. But one caveat to the study that I would like to point out is that all complementary therapies were grouped together. So this would include natural products of what we're focusing on, but also includes things like acupuncture, Tai Chi, chiropractic manipulation, meditation, mindfulness. All of those things were grouped together as a complementary therapy. The concerning part is that patients who were using complementary therapies were more likely to refuse conventional treatment. And when we say conventional treatment, we typically think of things like surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, and hormonal therapy. So if patients were using complementary therapy, they were about 7% of patients refused surgery, as opposed to those who did not use complementary therapy, when hardly anyone refused surgery. About half of patients taking complementary therapy refused radiation therapy. And about a third of patients doing complementary therapy refused chemotherapy and or hormonal therapy. So again, if the conventional therapy was delayed or refused, breast cancer patients specifically did not live as long if they delayed or refused those conventional treatments. And the 5-year overall survival difference was about 6%. So meaning that about 6%, they had a 6% lower chance of 5-year survival. But to me, I think the take-home point and the good news is that if conventional therapy was not delayed or refused, then the use of complementary therapy did not affect survival. So this can make you feel confident that as long as you're taking the advice of your provider in reference to surgery and radiation, chemotherapy, and hormonal therapy, and using your complementary therapy safely on top of that, your chance of having good outcomes should not be affected by the use of these complementary therapies. So I think that's really exciting for us. We just have to make sure that we're using it safely in combination with those other conventional treatments. So that takes me to my next fact or fiction question. So this fact or fiction question is, all natural products can be used safely with chemotherapy specifically? And usually, as the setting with all or none questions, this one is fiction. So we know that natural products and chemotherapies don't always play nicely together. And ways in which they may not play nicely together include 4 different areas. One being drug interactions. So even though these are called natural products and herbals and botanicals and some of these other terms, ultimately we think of them as drugs in the way that they can similarly interact with other drugs and the way they interact with our body. They can also have overlapping side effects. So we want to make sure that, we're not doubling up on a particular side effect that might make it more likely that that side effect were to occur. It can also affect the immune system, which we'll talk about. And then some of these natural products can also have hormonal properties. So when we talk specifically about drug interactions with natural products, there's a couple of different ways where this interaction might not be a good thing. One is that antioxidants may reduce the effects of radiation in certain chemotherapies. So we know that radiation and some chemotherapies, such as cisplatin, carboplatin, cyclophosphamide, they rely on the generation of reactive oxygen species in order to exert their anti-tumor effect. So that's how they work. They create these free radicals that then go in, attack the cancer. So if we're taking antioxidants that can decrease those reactive oxygen species, then that can actually make the chemotherapy less effective. The other thing is that there can be reduction or increased activity of certain enzymes in our body that help to break down chemotherapy. So one of the ways that chemotherapy kind of gets out of our body, the way our body naturally breaks it down, are with certain enzymes. And a lot of those come through the liver, but they can be other places too. And these natural products can sometimes affect how those enzymes work. They can either make them work less so that your chemotherapy is hanging around longer, potentially causing more side effects because you're not getting rid of it as quickly. Or they can actually make the enzymes work faster and break the chemotherapy down quicker than what we would like. And sometimes that can put you at risk for reduced efficacy or having it not work as well. So some natural products that we always think about whenever we're worried about this interfering with the enzyme activity in our body includes things like St. John's wort, garlic, ginkgo, ginseng, echinacea, and kava. But there are other ones too. The other thing that we oftentimes look at are overlapping side effects. So some cancer treatments, as well as cancer itself, can either cause bleeding or clotting. And so if we have certain natural products that can also increase the risk of bleeding or increase the risk of clotting, that can double that activity and put you at risk. Again, garlic, ginger, ginkgo are big ones on the bleeding side of things, along with saw palmetto. And then the other one that's probably the biggest issue with natural products, where we see most people seek medical attention for problems with natural products, is liver injury. And so about 20% of cases of hospitalization for natural product injury is because of effects on the liver. So this is things like green tea extract and black cohosh, among others. So we want to make sure that if you have, potentially your tumor has spread to your liver, is in your liver, or if you have chemotherapy that you're taking that we also know can be hard on the liver, if you add that together, that the risk of that side effect can be increased if you take it with a natural product that also causes that to happen. The third one that we think of, we talked about, was the immune system. So some natural products can boost your immune system. So we think of that with things like echinacea, but some may actually suppress your immune system, which may be, we may not want that to happen in places where we're already immune suppressed because of the chemotherapy. But similarly, on the boosting side of things, we actually may not want that either, depending on the situation. There's a particular side effect after a bone marrow transplant called graft versus host disease, where your immune system revs up too much. And so if we boost that even more with a natural product, that could put us into some problems. So again, it kind of depends on what area you're in for your cancer treatment as to where these might potentially be helpful, but could also potentially be harmful. And then finally, that we talked a little bit about with hormonal properties, that we know that breast, prostate, and other gynecologic cancers may have hormonal influences. So they are using things like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone in order to grow. And if some of these natural products mimic those same types of hormones, that could put us into problems of actually, kind of feeding the cancer, if you will, some of those same substances that we may be trying to decrease with other treatments that we're giving. So with all that being said, if you have particular questions about a natural product for your particular cancer, your particular treatment, your particular situation, the next fact or fiction question is, are there objective resources available for natural product information? Because I don't know about you, but I know how Google can be a rabbit hole of crazy information. And so you want to make sure that you're getting that objective information. So does that even exist in this current world? And happily, again, this is a fact. There are a few different resources that I would direct you to in order to find the most accurate and less biased information that's out there in the internet world. So one is that consumer lab. So we talked about that a little bit earlier, about it being a good independent reviewer of herbal products for, good manufacturing practices, as well as lack of contamination, and making sure what's in there is good. And so they've got nice information on their website about these different supplements, being able to direct you to the particular products that would be that they have reviewed, so that if you want to get a garlic supplement, which garlic supplement would be the best one to choose based off of their review. So this is a good website to go to. Some of their content you do have to pay for, but some of it is free, so it's worth checking them out. And depending on how much information you feel like you would want to get, that pay option is available. The other site that I personally love and visit on a very regular basis is the Memorial Sloan Kettering About Herbs site. They have an integrative medicine service, and they manage the content on this website regularly between a pharmacist and a botanical expert. And their claim to fame is that they have objective and evidence-based information on traditional and proven uses, potential benefits, possible adverse effects, and interaction with other herbs or medicines. So they have a great website where you can type in any herb that you want, and it will go through and give you all kinds of information about it. And you can go as little or as deep as you want into the information that they provide. They have objective information on more than 200 herbs and therapies, so it's very comprehensive. And if you have an Apple product, there is an app that you can get that's free in their app store. It is not currently available on the Android operating system. And this is just a screenshot of what their website looks like. So again, you just type in whatever herb that you're looking for, and their first section is for patients and caregivers. So it goes through in layman's terms how it works, what it's purportedly used for, any warnings and other interactions. And then there's a second section for healthcare professionals. So if you feel like you speak that particular language or want to dive a little bit more into some of the data that goes into that information, you can check out the healthcare professional section as well. But they do a good job about putting, some other names that it could be used by, that can go by, and other things too. So I find this to be probably one of my big go-to sites, and I highly recommend it. Another one that's available is the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, or the NCCIH, which is part of the National Cancer Institute, and also within the National Institutes of Health and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It funds and conducts research to answer questions about complementary health approaches, which I really appreciate that they're actively trying to get us more data, because that's one of the things that holds us back as a healthcare community, I think, from some of the complementary medicines and approaches, is not having that really solid data that we talked about at the beginning, those phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 trials. And so this is trying to help us gain some of that more information. So the website is available there. You can just Google it. They have all kinds of integrative health topics. They're not just focused only on the natural products part. So if you're looking for information about acupuncture, yoga, and some of those other complementary therapies, there's good sections that they have on those as well. They also have an app called Herbalist. Theirs is much smaller. Their library is smaller than what the Sloan Kettering site has, but they do have very good science-based summaries on the ones that they have. So you'll find your more common ones in there, but some of the rarer ones you may not find on this particular site. And they also have an app available for both for Apple, but they also have one available for the Android operating system too on the Google Play Store. So you can find it there if necessary, if that's your particular flavor. And this is just again a picture of what their website looks like. So they provide background on the particular herbal or the natural product, what we know, what we've learned, safety things, and other references if you wanted to look a little bit further. And our last fact or fiction question or statement is, I should share all of my questions about natural products with my healthcare team. And certainly you can probably already guess that I would say that this is absolutely a fact, but unfortunately, only about 20% of cancer patients who are using alternative and complementary therapies actually tell their healthcare team that they're doing so. But it's, as you've seen based off of what I presented earlier, it's really important that we know if you're taking natural products specifically, because of the fact that we want to know that information in order to help to make the best healthcare decisions that we can make for you, having all of that information. So number one, absolutely be honest, let them know what you're taking. Based off of some surveys, people are scared that their healthcare team is going to try to talk them out of taking it, or potentially not know anything about it. And so they don't want to dive into those conversations, or they don't feel like their healthcare team has time. So all of these things, don't let that dissuade you from actually entering into some of those conversations, because it should be a conversation with your team and you. So try to be honest with with all of the things that you're bringing to your cancer treatment. I think it's important also to identify what chief concern the natural product is addressing. So, sometimes we can get into this habit or like this behavior of just picking a whole lot of different things and not really thinking through why we might want to be taking herbal products. So if you could have a feel for, is there a particular side effect that you're looking to treat? Is there a particular symptom of your cancer? Is it that, just trying to live longer? All of that can help your healthcare team to direct you to particular, health natural products potentially, or other complementary therapies that can help you with those particular symptoms or concerns. It's super helpful to keep a diary of your natural product use and to track your symptoms based off of that. It can give you, if we don't have good objective information from the data that's out there, because those studies aren't required, you can provide that objective data for you as an individual. So if you're keeping track of, I'm using this particular, I'm using ginger because I'm having nausea. And if you keep track of your ginger use and how your nausea is feeling during the day, you might be able to tell, like, yes, this is absolutely working, and this is something that I would like to prioritize as part of my cancer treatment. Or you might find that once you start looking at it, you're like, you know what, it's not really changing whether I take my ginger or not. So maybe this isn't something that I even need anymore. So it can help you just accurately, and objectively decide whether or not this particular treatment is worth continuing. And it will also help your healthcare team to know how to, incorporate that into your full cancer treatment. And I always say to do not suddenly start or stop a natural product, not to suddenly start it if you weren't taking it before without talking with your healthcare team, just to make sure that we're looking through all of those information, all of the information about how it might play with your other cancer treatments, your conventional cancer treatments, but also maybe to not stop it either, because if there was an interaction that was occurring with your cancer treatment, and now all of a sudden we take that away, it might affect the way that your cancer treatment is working, and it might make it more toxic or have more side effects or maybe less. So we would want to know that, just so that we can more accurately assess the situation as we're moving forward. And then again, just to reiterate, to be honest, try to have it be an open conversation with your healthcare team, so that we all know, what's the full picture. What information should you share with your healthcare team when you enter into these conversations about natural products? I would make sure and bring an entire list of all of the natural products that you're taking, just as you would provide them a list of your prescription drugs that you're taking. So the name of it, the list of ingredients, because I will tell you some of them, have a vague term or, a generic name. And then you flip the bottle over and there's, 40 different natural products within that one product. So it's important for us to know what all is in there, because sometimes it's not just one thing in one product. The strength of the ingredients, how much you're taking and how often. So I take 1 capsule 3 times a day. I take 1 tablespoon 5 times a day. Why you're taking it. Again, it just kind of goes back to that, trying to identify what it is you're trying to get out of this natural product. And then also where you're obtaining it from. That can be very helpful to know, you're buying it off of Amazon, or, you get it from, Canada, whatever it is that you might get it. That can help us to make sure that you're getting it through safe routes and things like that. So what are the take-home points that I would like you to take away from this time together? First is that safety is always first. So natural products, unfortunately, are not regulated and evaluated in the same way that our prescription drugs are. But that doesn't mean that we can't find ways to use them safely. And so that's where some of our reputable sources for information on these natural products come in. That's where the different stamps of approval between the USP, consumer labs, and then the National Sanitation Foundation. When you see those stamps, you can feel good about the product that you're taking, that there's that added safety benefit. So all of those things, we just want to make sure that what you're doing, number one, is safe. We also, again, those reputable sources, we don't want you to get into that Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole that is Google. If the information is too good to be true, it probably is. And that applies to natural products just like it does everything else in our life. So we want to make sure that the sources that you're using to gain that information are the most accurate and provide the most balanced ones. So please utilize those ones that I provided to you. And again, especially that Memorial Sloan Kettering site specifically for natural products is a wonderful resource. And lastly, please be honest with your healthcare team that, we're here to help to guide you through this particular stage. And so we want to make sure that we're giving you the best information. And the only way that we can do that is if we have all the information that you do. So we'll give you the information, you give us the information, it all works out well. So let's just make sure that we're all being honest with each other. And with that, I will end my my discussion on natural products, fact versus fiction. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to this presentation today, and I hope that, that you gained a lot of good information that you can use to help you out. And I would say, as you're trying to decide about opening up to your healthcare provider or your healthcare team about your use of natural products, one of the things that you can do is let them know at an appointment that you would like to discuss it maybe the next time. They may not have time or feel comfortable doing it right at the moment, but if you give them that list of natural products and say, I would like to discuss these the next time we meet, that can give them time to do some research, ask their friendly oncology pharmacist for help. And then if you would like to talk to an oncology pharmacist, ask your provider if they have one that they can direct you to, or you can always talk to your friendly community pharmacist as well, and see if they can help you make those good decisions about the use of natural products in your cancer treatment. So again, I thank you and I wish you well.